If you really don't give a shit about someone, you probably, whatever they do won't get to you. You'll probably just be like, okay. But it's the one you take out time to say, oh, you did this, you said this, I really didn't like it, it hurt my feelings. If I don't give a shit about you, I'm obviously going to be very stern, but it is what it is. I'm not a religious person and I'm not a spiritual person, but I love God. I always like to put that out there. So there's a part in the Bible that says, God didn't tell us about how, I know there's a part that says, without blah, 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 you can't see God. But God also talked about our righteousness being a filthy rag before Him. Technically saying, no matter how much you try to be righteous, it stays a filthy rag before God. And God also mentioned that the greatest commandment is love. He never said the greatest commandment was righteousness. So how did you love that poor person how did you love that prostitute down your street? How did you love that poor person? How did you love that queer person? So, I mean, for me, I think love goes that's my own opinion. That's why I doubt if I would ever judge anyone. I just let people be and live their lives. As long as you're not hurting another person and all of that. That's my own version of, I think those are like just my own religious influences of loving, to never judge, to just love unconditionally. And also love with respect, meaning when love goes out of the building or when respect goes out of the building, you reserve whatever love you have to yourself. Over the years or over time, I've come to see that idea of love as being relative, as it being a relative term, a relative concept. And it's all dependent on mood, on who it is with, on feelings, on the feelings it's built on, or on the perspective at which you see it. So I can't really say this is how I'm going to define love, because I can love one person this way today and love another person in another way tomorrow. So I can't really put a definition to it. Love from my father, probably the most sacrificial man I know. I think men of his generation saw loving a child from a different perspective. Theirs was very provisional. And we never lacked anything growing up. Went to the best of schools. And we never lacked anything yes, his work took him away from us most of the time. But whenever he had to be present, like, we always look forward to him coming home and would always report Momsy to say Momsy was very stern and all of that. So the dynamics was just kind of weird. It was almost like they planned it. So when we were kids, Mom was the very strict, spare the rod, spoil the child type of person. Popsy was the love you unconditionally. I don't care what you do. You're my child. I love you. I'm going to give you everything. That type of thing. And like I said, we never lacked anything. Then as we grew older, it almost felt like they planned it that they were going to switch roles. So as we grew older, my dad now became very strict. And then my mom was our G. And because we spent more time with her growing up, that friendship was already there. So their change of rules just made it easier for us to just switch or to just slide away. But like I said, with men of their generation, their way of showing love was being very provisional. They felt they had to go and do a lot of work out there to be able to take care of family and all of that. But regardless, we got the best of everything growing up till adulthood. Okay, so for me, it's always about the very simple things. It's always about the very simple things. I know this might sound like, what are you saying? I love flowers. I love flowers a lot. So when I get sent flowers from my friends, that's one of the reasons why I love them. Shout out to Kiki and Lami, who would always send me flowers. When I get flowers, it means everything to me. And I don't know, like I said, it's about the little things. Someone sends you airtime. Those free, I don't know. It's just because I've really experienced what love is from home. And how it's not so tied to materialism, as it were. For me, it's all about the little things, the little sacrifices. Like, there's someone in my life that if I ever tell the person, maybe at night, I feel some funny type of way, like I'm not feeling well, I can bet it with you. 7 a.m., the person is at my gate. I can bet it with you. I think over time, when I look at, being grown now and really understanding how relative love is and what it should be my own way, it wasn't about getting everything I wanted. It was just knowing that even if the world hated you, even if the world didn't give a shit about you, there was someone somewhere who loved you unconditionally. So I'll give an instance. There was a time I was in secondary school where my entire set refused to talk to me. So I always went to school as a loner. And I would always look forward to, oh my God, I need to go home. I need to go home. I need to go home. And just to be picked up by mother, it was just everything for me. Just to see her, say, how's school? Are you okay? I missed all of the sacrifices and all of that. And then going home to family was just a beautiful thing. So if, like my dad would always say, I'll say it in Yoruba, Tita Banjuno Sawale, Badawale, which simply means if it's hot outside, please come back home. Taking the idea of love from home and how it has influenced how I see life and how I perceive people and how I choose to love people. My parents were very sacrificial. They were very expressive on how they show to love each and every one of us. And I think that also reflects in how I choose to love. And also to when they had to tell you the truth, it also always came from a place of love. It always came from a place of love. I was still giving a friend a story some days ago where I said I was so unserious in primary school that there was a night my mom and I stayed up. I had very horrible handwriting, so I owe my beautiful handwriting to my mother. And my mom said something in Yoruba. She said, meaning a child that decides to trouble, or literally says a child who says his mother won't sleep. He himself or herself too won't sleep. So that night we stayed up. She taught me how to write. And we completed my notes. Like I said, I was very unserious in primary school. And she helped me write my notes and all of that. And it was really hard because it was a different kind of love because she had to go to work the following morning. I can't, it's something I can't forget in my life, that we stayed up till almost 4 a.m. writing my notes because I had no notes. I'll be in school, I'll just be flossing around and all of that. And I had a time frame to complete the notes. So that kind of love, it wasn't, how do I put it, was tough love, but it was also love. It was also love. It was done out of, you have to be a better child, you have to be a better person, but it was still love. It was done out of love. I always believed that they didn't give a shit about me. They would probably just have left me to while in whatever it is I was doing. I'm only able to give the kind of love I have seen around. If I haven't experienced, it just can't come from the blues. It comes from how you didn't, obviously not perfect, no home or no marriage is perfect and all of that, but in between, that's where you get to understand that if it takes more than love to say you're with someone, you're building forever with someone, or you're making a commitment to someone. You guys will definitely hit the rocks at some point or go through your own dark times and all of that. But above all, it's how you treat all of these challenges that come your way, all of these setbacks that come your way, how you speak to each other amidst all of these wobbles that really defines what kind of love you have for each other. Like there's a book I'm reading, or there's a popular saying that says, when you are at loggerheads with someone, be mindful of what they say to you, or something like that. If someone, like, if you want to know if someone really loves you, have like some sort of misunderstanding, the things they say to you will just sort of reflect. Yes, I know people are human and we're all fallible and we all can make mistakes, but I think I don't think I can give the kind of love I love to give if I didn't see it around. I love to spend time with the people I love. And maybe for the longest, I didn't love myself enough. So I felt the way to get that love was to, in a way, show love and hopefully get it back in return. But it never works like that, because you always have to understand that there are two kinds of upbringing. You're either raised on love or you're raised on survival. So you give out that love to the person who is raised on survival. You're a blank check and you get used. It's the reason why I told you from the very get-go that over time I've come to see love as a very relative concept, and how it's been experienced by different people. With the kind of love you give to different people sort of varies, so you can't really generalize and say, well, this is what love is, when you know that the next person you might love, it might not be that same experience you've given to a previous person. I'm very introverted. People think I love being, and I'm not that type of person. So when I find someone I always want to talk to, it just felt very weird, because I'm like, I don't like to talk. I just like to sit down and observe. If it's to talk about my profession, in terms of like talk about fashion, I enjoy that a lot. But to talk about myself or talk about, it's not my style. But to see that you really, and the easiest way for me, what I find completely attractive in people, conversations. It's like, it's a must. If there is no levels at which we can communicate, then there's really no point. So if I find myself wanting to talk to this person over and over again, I think that was the major sign for me. Greatest love of all times. To be honest with you, I would say, I said it from the very get-go, because I've seen a lot, I've heard a lot, I've read a lot. The idea of love is very relative. So I would say maternal love. But I've seen situations whereby mother falls out with child, and that love that you expect to be there isn't there. I've seen a situation by siblings who loved each other, but as time, they all just drift apart. Everybody goes on with their life. I've seen friends fall apart and all of that. So that idea of what love is the greatest, I think self-love. You have to love yourself. Like I said, I told you earlier, I've been in a space where I had no other choice but to love myself. And it's the easiest way to heal. It's the easiest way to find freedom, when you know you have yourself and you come back on yourself and you're all that you have got. And this is not some aspire to perspire type of thing, sorry, if that's what you're expecting. But regardless of the love you get from home, from friends, from even a significant other, if you don't love yourself enough, and I use that word enough, if you don't love yourself enough, whatever it is you do in this life, just make out time to love yourself. I'm not a big fan of the society in the first place. A couple of flawed people come together to make rules for people to live perfect. World of opposites. That's so wrong. And I think the earlier we all start living, the better for all of us. As much as I would like to say I'm not influenced by society, society doesn't necessarily mean the whole world. Even the little community of friends you have is a small society. The society and their idea of loving is fallible in every way. I mean, it's almost very systemic. Two people meet, then they date, back then they would say they courts, then they courts and they do this, and it's almost very choreographed. It's very, very choreographed. But I think if two adults decide to come together, they have every right to make their own rules. Two consenting adults, they have every right to make their own rules and redecorate what their idea of love should be. Love leaves you vulnerable. It's you completely being your total self. And maybe after a heartbreak I suffered, I've always been a guarded person. That's what even made it worse. I've always been a very guarded person, and it's because I'm pretty careful about who comes into my life and all of that. So love and being vulnerable is okay, like it's fine. But I think after that heartbreak, like I would say again, I just became really guarded and all of that. But love and vulnerability are two things it's almost like a very symbiotic relationship where they rub off each other. You can't expect someone to love you wholly if you're not vulnerable to them. You can't expect that kind of love to flow seamlessly. So love and vulnerability are things that I know coexist. On love and conflict, as you grow older, man, the only thing you crave is peace of mind. I don't know how to fight. I don't know how to keep a grudge. I'm just going to say, you did so and so, and it hurt me. Please don't let it happen again. And I'm good. I don't know how to make a fuss. I don't know how to give silent treatments. I think those things are pretty puerile. If I don't want to talk to you, I can tell you I don't want to talk to you in the next 1 week. I'll just bear my mind all out, but please just give me some space. But to do all of that, shouting, I don't have that energy. The two kinds of love that I absolutely love, I know one was very crazy. It would be between Mr. Big and Carrie Bradshaw. Toxic. Very weird kind of love, because to be honest, if it were me, I'd have left a long time. And the love between Julia Roberts and Richard Gere in Pretty Woman, how different she was and how over time he fell in love with her regardless of who she was and all of that. Like I said, it's a fictitious kind of love, so please don't go and watch those movies and see what Tosin said, blah blah blah. Disclaimer out there. It would be between my parents and how two people who are, because the truth is, even if you decide to get married to someone, the upbringings are still different. The personalities are still different. So you come together to build a family. You live in a home together and just being able to tolerate each other. And there's something I think I've also learned when he says love is never enough. Love is never enough. At some point, love like thirst would quench. Love like thirst would quench. Now, it is left to both parties to know how to make it work. I think which is why I'm a firm believer of conversations, where you talk about everything. There's nobody, you bear everything all out. And I think I've seen my parents do this. And I think they've been married for over 45 years. And I've seen them tolerate each other's excesses and just be there for us and love each other regardless, through good and bad times. Yeah, I think technically, like I said, it's the love you experience closely that you get to learn from. And I think I've just learned a whole lot from my parents, and even how people treated them, their experiences, and all of that. The minute you start covering things, like someone does something, you cover up, you don't want to talk about it. At that point, if the person continues, the person doesn't have an idea that they're hurting you. So you can't make a case for yourself. Now, it's a different thing if I tell you, I hate when you just eat and you don't do the dishes, and then you do it tomorrow, and then you do it next tomorrow. Disrespect is already setting in there, then you can start setting boundaries. But if you're quiet about it and say, oh, you know what, let me talk about it in the next 2-3 days, and things come up, or let me just let it go, it's not a big deal. I'm not saying it's everything you complain about, so you don't look like a nag. But that's where the power of conversation comes in. You talk about it, and if the person feels they love you enough to compromise on whatever things they do that hurts you, then fine. If the person doesn't feel so, then bounce. I think age changes a whole lot. It gives you a new eye to seeing things. So maybe when I was younger, what I wanted when I was in my teens would be different from what I wanted when I was in my 20s. Would be a lot different from what I want when I was in my 30s. I'm almost 40. Definitely what I want is completely different from what I want in my 30s. I think at this point, just clarity, sanity, peace of mind. Clarity, sanity, peace of mind. I don't want to fight over stupid things. I don't want to have conversations that are not healthy. I don't want to be with someone who... I just don't like stress. I just don't like stress. I'm very simple in my thoughts, in my deeds. Yeah. There's certain partners or spouses that you have. I don't want to talk every day. I don't want to talk 20 times a day. What for? I don't want to do all of that. But you realize that once you take communication off a relationship, you both will just start growing apart. Look at it from your friends that maybe you guys were here in Nigeria together and then they traveled and their communication was on, and after a while, and then. So communication is, for me, it might not apply to another person. For me, communications are very, very important. To maintaining effective communication, it's a choice. If you always have to make that choice. And I also feel it's also tied to how you genuinely feel, your intentions about someone. If you really want something to work with a particular person with no ulterior motives, you would realize that you're doing your best possible to make sure things work, to make sure you guys communicate about everything. There are no unturned pages. There's no communication gaps. So it's a choice. You decide to say, I want to be with this person. I want to spend time with this person. I want to make a commitment to this person. I'm willing to do the work. It's a choice. I want to communicate with this person. It's a choice. Love is sacrificial. And when you sacrifice, it shows some atom of love that you have for someone. But like I said, as you grow older, you realize that yes, you've done things you would wish you didn't do. But at the same time, you've done it. There are no regrets. You move on. So I won't necessarily say I regret anything. I won't use the word coping mechanism, but it's just one of the things I have come to understand, that when you do things, you just do it and you keep it moving. So I don't regret anything, but a lesson I learned, and takes me back to, oh God, I did my final year project was in Yoruba proverbs, so I'm really exposed to Yoruba proverbs. Ìwọ̀ntúnwọ̀nsì ni ó ń ṣoore. Èmi ò lè ṣoore tí ò ní kọ́mà. Meaning, when you're being kind or when you're being helpful, you do it in bits. You don't just expose yourself completely. And whatever good you're doing to people, because they're humans at the end of the day, just always try to put a comma to it. You don't just do without, you just do, and then put a full stop. Put a pause. You can't sacrifice yourself, because at the end of the day, you'd have nothing to give.